think we got a pretty good energy today. It's like trampoline energy. So anyway, the glass harmonica, the reason they're talking about it on Sawbones is because...
I would have made a joke, but the internet crashed.
I saw you.
Went down.
That's good. Ben Franklin off-ramp that we just took was because I used the word unsettling to describe how Rudy might be feeling right now. That was 7 minutes ago. I love this show. So the news of the day. I'm gonna give you some real stuff on this one. So buckle up, everybody. That's how you know it's gonna be a good one. You get Seth in like 40 minutes, and in the meantime, I get to talk about something that I actually kind of care about. Started 9 hours ago, according to Twitter. Kevin Clark of The Ringer tweeted, Chiefs president Mark Donovan, when asked this AM about potential new stadium options, said the team has considered options in the state of Kansas. They like Arrowhead and the legacy of Lamar Hunt Stadium, but have been pitched by Kansas developers on a bunch of options. Something to watch. I'm going to hit this from a bunch of angles here, and we'll circle back on what I think is actually important. Leaving Arrowhead Stadium for anything anywhere else would be kind of annoying. Kind of a tough pill to swallow. I've already changed the name of it, but staying at Arrowhead feels nice. Arrowhead Stadium feels good.
We changed the name?
Yeah, you remember. It's your favorite company.
Geha?
Yeah, Geha Field at Arrowhead Stadium.
That's right.
Or as Clark Hunt has called it, GEH Field at Arrowhead Stadium. It's because you go GEH Arrowhead. You know, it's like a portmanteau that way. So... I'm not terribly precious about all that stuff. I'm more excited by the idea of the Royals moving downtown than I would be at them staying at the K and the Truman Sports Complex. I think having downtown baseball would be a lot of fun. Both because it is a good source of things for me to talk about here at my job, and also because I care as a Kansas Cityan and as a person who just enjoys this sort of stuff. I love having professional sports teams in this city, in the surrounding areas. We're currently, broadcasting from Overland Park. I live in KC-Mo now. I love that. I think there's something really valuable about having your city's names on franchises you're proud of. I really do love that about sports, and Kansas City is incredible at representing Kansas City. Like, all of that stuff really does matter to me. I really do love and care about that stuff. Also, Mark Donovan is walking you up on stage, picking you up, tucking you under his chin, and playing you like a fiddle. I don't know, that's not what fiddles sound like. I can't really do a acapella fiddle. Not capable. Mark Donovan is Devil Went Down to Georgia all over us right now, saying we're actually thinking about the Chiefs moving to the Kansas side. It's too bad the video's not working, because I just did some great video work for only an audio audience.
Just got it up, I think maybe 5 to 10 seconds before.
Just if you can't watch anyway, just imagine me playing the fiddle as I'm saying all this. It's very fun. You're getting played on this one for a variety of reasons. Ooh. Hi, I'm Mark Donovan for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm Clark Hunt. We're here to talk to you about the possibility of us moving from Kansas City, Missouri, and Jackson County over to the Kansas side, or perhaps somewhere else. The timing of this, you ask? It has nothing to do with the amount of money that the Buffalo Bills just got pledged in public funding for their updated, new, renovated, fresh new stadium. No. Totally unrelated. We're just taking a look at a lease that expires in 2031, I believe. Don't even sweat it. But we're thinking about moving. What do you think? And as is his only option, Kansas City, Missouri Mayor Quentin Lucas immediately is like, yo, hold on, we like this team. We're going to work to keep them here. Everybody calm down. I think the Chiefs should be in Kansas City. I think the Royals should be in Kansas City. Sports complex, downtown for the Royals. Again, I'm kind of excited about the idea of a downtown stadium. But there's one particular part of this that is a mandatory, the only thing that matters in this conversation is that it is a play for more taxpayer money. I am not the most curmudgeonly person I know. I do not talk about tax dollars as much as every other person I know. I want to talk about them here. Clark Hunt talked about the Royals moving whenever he spoke to the media in November. He looked at some of that. He did not sound like a man that was planning on moving Arrowhead or moving away from Arrowhead. If the Royals do move out of Kauffman and move downtown, maybe it opens up the option for the Chiefs to build a brand new stadium next to Arrowhead and then, knock down Arrowhead, knock down Kauffman to build new Arrowhead and stay in that same space. Maybe they just end up renovating Arrowhead more. Lots of options. All of them, though, will be funded by Jackson County taxpayer dollars. And that part of this is shameful. Being a sports team owner, professional sports team owner in America, is one of the best deals you can get as a billionaire. You buy the teams, they rise in value, you write off so much. You can write off, there's some more research from smarter people than me. You can write off contract values because players are a depreciating asset. I don't know if everyone's doing that. That was a specific Clippers thing.
That's what I remember was Steve Ballmer was able to report on his taxes, I believe, that he lost money because of the Clippers, because of just all the various write-offs and all that stuff. And obviously he did not lose. He's a billionaire.
He bought the Clippers for $2 billion, and here from the LA Times in 2014. He's going to seek as much as half of that price in tax breaks. LeBron had a tax rate triple that of Steve Ballmer. ProPublica was the place that had the story, ProPublica.org, if you want to get more of this specific information. How billionaire, let me close this pop-up, ProPublica.org. The billionaire playbook, how sports owners use their teams to avoid millions in taxes. This is a sick deal. There is no stock market equivalent for an investment that rises at the value that sports teams rise at. Many of these owners, particularly Clark Hunt being an example of this, inherit this from their family, and then they start getting a whole new round of breaks as a new owner, even though it stays in the family. There's been some really good research on this. I'm going to try to give you a few of the things on a small snippet of, so I don't sit here and be the underqualified person to try to sort through some of the fine bits of this on a business scale. If you are interested in this at all, start with a ProPublica story, go down the rabbit hole. It will leave you furious. The last time the Chiefs went through this and got taxpayer funding for renovations, numbers here from Andrew Wegley on Twitter. The taxpayers of Jackson County, Missouri, paid for 67% of a $375 million renovation barely a decade ago, and then the Chiefs fought to escape taxes owed on hundreds of items to outfit the stadium they barely paid for. We paid for it, and they fought up to the state Supreme Court, and I believe ended up winning at least a portion of these things, if not all of it completely, to not have to pay taxes on stuff that we, the city, paid for Clark Hunt. He does not need that bill to be footed by all of us. Not telling you that it's the worst thing in the world for cities to end up stuck with some portion of the bill for supporting their teams, and we do that so many different ways. You're doing that when you go fill up the stadiums and you buy the merchandising. It's a cost of doing business for the owners in terms of, hey, we're putting out a product that you're proud of, so you're going to buy our hats and jerseys and represent us all around the city. You're going to pack our stadiums. You're going to pay our $60 parking. Might be more than that now. It's been a minute since I've had to pay a park.
$70.
I watch Chiefs games from here. Post-game action.
Yeah, could be wrong. I have not paid for parking in forever. Lebo mentioned 70, I believe, earlier today. Obviously, he would know. He's a smart man. I believe he said 70.
I've got some quotes for you from an article that Mina Kimes tweeted out in terms of stadium subsidies and what that means for cities. The truth is that the vast majority of peer-reviewed academic research finds that stadiums actually don't contribute to economic growth, nor do they create measurable benefits in the local community. Some more other sources from within this story quoted here. NFL stadiums do not generate significant local economic growth, and the incremental tax revenue is not sufficient to cover any significant financial contribution by the city. If every sports team in Chicago were to suddenly disappear, the impact on the Chicago economy would be a fraction of 1%. A baseball team has about the same impact on a community as a mid-sized department store. Public subsidies for stadiums are a great deal for team owners, league executives, developers, bond attorneys, construction firms, politicians, and everyone in the stadium food chain, but a really terrible deal for everyone else. If you want to inject money into the local economy, it would be better to drop it from a helicopter than invest it in a new ballpark. When Mark Donovan says we're keeping all of our options open, and when John Sherman says, signaling over and over and over again, we're going downtown, what?
I think it's important also to point out there, like you said, it's not that Sherman has like hinted at maybe that's a possibility.
It's the plan.
They are straight up like, that's where we want to be.
It's where they want to be.
The Chiefs have been like, oh, maybe we'll do blah, blah, blah. The Royals are like, no, this is what we want.
And to me, the thing that comes off a little more insidiously about what the Chiefs did today is the Chiefs have two states to pit against each other here. Yeah, we can move to KCK. You guys want to give us a significantly larger chunk of the stadium bill?
Well, what about, your
notes there hit a knob on your board that made the audio very different in my ears.
Like loud or quiet?
Right where it's at right now is okay.
Okay.
It just bumped it and it threw off my whole equilibrium, and now I can't hear out of my left ear. I could before. That's okay.
You still can't?
No, I'll figure it out.
What about now?
Nope, that's okay. You just talk. I'll power through. I'm a professional.
The Legends area, right? Like,
yep.
I imagine that.
Put us by the racetrack.
I imagine that's an area. I don't know who the mayor of. Is that technically Lenexa? Or is that Kansas City, Kansas? That's Kansas City, Kansas.
I think it's Kansas City, Kansas.
That is Kansas City, Kansas. Yeah, so whoever the mayor of Kansas City, Kansas is, I would assume that is a very
it's also funky because it's Wyandotte County and unified. So technically, Tyrone Gardner is the mayor and CEO of the United Government of Wyandotte County. There you go. But right, it's that. It is. Oh, I got headphones back. It is go to the Kansas side. Let's see what they'll give us if we moved over there. Hey, Missouri, we're thinking about moving. You guys want to give us a little bit of a nicer deal? And again, I don't begrudge any politicians for being willing to put up public tax dollars to keep a team from leaving their city. I understand why a politician would do that. I understand why ownership would do it. And I also do not expect an entire country, every city in America, to all unified say, we are done paying for your stadiums. I don't expect that to even happen. I just want you, the listener, to know that's what this is all about. The Chiefs don't want to move, period. If they want a new stadium, maybe we want to do something indoors and be able to host bigger events, have a Final Four in Kansas City, whatever that might be. I think the Chiefs would be perfectly happy to own the Truman Sports Complex, and maybe you see more come up in that area and they really develop all of that out.
It's also more parking spaces, which just
all
means
the parking in the world.
More people parking, which just means more money, which Aspen points out. And I do remember this, $70 at the gate, $35 if you order it online ahead of time. Because I do remember our great partners over at Tickets for Less, that obviously being a big point. Like, hey, buy your parking pass here and now before the game because it's much cheaper.
None of my comments have loaded, so if anybody else makes a really good point, you just let me know, Rudy, because they've not been working.
Ice Pyro, to counter what you said, does say that he's been playing Civilization 5, and if you build a Coliseum, it does boost civilian satisfaction and approval numbers. So
approval numbers, I think, is actually probably about right.
Yeah.
Was civilian satisfaction?
Yes.
Also probably true. My favorite tweet of this day, though, was from somebody named Troy Carlson, who responded to a tweet by Andrew Brandt. Said, sorry, hospitals and schools, maybe once you make the playoffs. That's where I end up here. It's not even like, oh, my tax dollars, blah, blah, blah. How is this we were using them? Do you know how bad our healthcare system is?
My mom's a nurse practitioner, and while I love her, She's not the most important person in my life born on September 17th. That's Patrick Mahomes.
Wow.
Sorry, Mom. Throw a football farther, and then we'll support your hospital.
But like a lot farther.
Like so much farther.
And like really well.
So well.
I want Kansas City.
Run faster than Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, be fast, little Jimmy.
Just run faster, Jimmy.
Get you a nice contract, and then we'll trade you to Miami for some draft picks. I want Kansas City to get an NBA team. I talked about this a while back, and I was looking into it again recently. Kansas City would be an incredible home for a WNBA team. A lot of it's sort of weird, almost all of their teams, all but I think 2 or 3, are in a market that has an NBA team, and I feel like Kansas City would welcome that with open arms. I think that would be awesome. I want us to have more pro sports around here. I really do. And I understand that it is important for it to be the Kansas City Chiefs. I think I said this at some point around a name change conversation. Kansas City is way more important to me than Chiefs ever could be in the team name. They could be the Kansas City Wind Farts, and I would go, can we just put Kansas City on the front? Maybe leave Wind Farts off. But Kansas City, I'll still wear the merch. I would rather than be called the Kansas City Wind Farts than the Omaha follow at JB Brisco on Twitters.
With the knee.
Definitely rather than that. That really is what matters to me. I totally understand if your first thought is, I will tax me whatever you want. I want Patrick Mahomes to represent my city for the next decade. I totally understand that. This is not me yelling at you. Please don't hear me talking down my nose at any of you fellow Jackson County taxpayers. And again, I don't even really feel that way for the politicians in this space or for the construction companies in this space or anything. The only people that I look at sneeringly right now are the billionaire owners who do not need our subsidizing and the people who are going to use this sort of, maybe we'll go over to Kansas, to try to milk every penny possible out of your pocket when we could all use better general government infrastructure. This is not where I would spend our tax dollars. And that's why I'm announcing my run for... No, go ahead.
You mentioned construction companies. There is
I'm really touching on a lot of your parents' industries on this one, apparently.
I know. But there is a connection between somebody who owns the Royals. One of the minor owners is just also happens to own a construction company.
I bet they'll have nothing to do with the stadium that gets built downtown.
J.E. Dunn will not build the stadium.
Won't he be anywhere near it? This just bums me out. Do you know how awesome it would be if at the end of all of this we hear, hey, the Chiefs are going to do... Somebody did a full... Did Kroenke do a fully privately funded stadium? Is SoFi privately funded? Not SoFi. That's the... Yeah, SoFi.
Yeah, SoFi. Part of me wants to say yes, but it doesn't feel like a Kroenke.
It doesn't. I know. It's crazy. But I think it might be. Let's see. I just wrote SoFi. It's giving me information about the company. I mean the stadium. I'm a sports boy. Google. More than $5 million to build, all privately funded by Stan Kroenke. I mean, it would have been him and others privately funding it, I'm
For
sure.
Yeah.
But
no taxpayer dollars, the point being.
They didn't say, hey, LA, let us in, and then let us take all of your money with us.
Love the Kroenkes. Especially Josh.
What's his deal?
He owns the Nuggets.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the son of the Kroenkes is the Nuggets guy.
I would be so happy, and please hold me to this if somehow this news happens. And John Sherman seems like he's done everything right since becoming the Royals owner. Clark Hunt has already taken your money once, so I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt on this. I would be so happy to come on the radio one day and say, Royals just announced they're moving downtown, and it is going to be completely privately funded by John Sherman and the ownership group and other private funders who are going to make this happen. I would be overjoyed.
Or even if it's at least like 75% privately funded, which, again, here's the thing.
I would not be overjoyed by that because part of it for me is the principle. Because I almost said that, Rudy. I almost said, if the Chiefs say, hey, we're only going to take a little bit of your money to publicly fund some of this, But it is in large part it is the principle of it.
For sure. The reality is these owners can, I mean, they can afford it. Like they just can. And
they've got the sweetest deal in billionairing.
Well, and the thing we forget too is they're not paying all of this up front. Like these are essentially loans, right? Like the whatever company ends up building the stadium builds it. And then they get paid generally over 10, 20, or 30 years.
They got their banks. They got this.
It is not. You are not paying all this. You know, when a stadium costs $1.2 billion, you are not spending $1.2 billion right then and there. That is over time that your sports team will make that money. I'm at the point where it's just, you know, it's just, you see what happened, like, again, with Buffalo, right? Where it's not even just that it's how little they are, where it's just like, man, if a team just came in and was like, hey, let's do 50-50, they would be applauded in the news, I think.
So the Bills stadium is going to cost $1.4 billion, and $850 million of that is going to come from taxpayers in New York. They don't need your money. They're taking it because they can, because you won't stop them. Because if you didn't, the Bills would then go somewhere else to some city that would pay them. And again, I don't like to just complain without a solution. I don't know what the solution on this one is, but it really frustrates me. And
I mean, it would be, and this just isn't going to happen, but it would essentially just be every mayor in every major city in America just coming together and be like, we're done. Like that, you know what I mean? Like, but
and on the other
side
of the
never
coin,
happen though, is because at some point St. Louis is like, well, you know what?
Exactly.
We really want a football team back.
Exactly.
Right? Like somebody is going to cave. That's the flaw in all this. It takes one person to cave, and then all of a sudden we're right back to where we're at.
I'm opening up.
I think that's the only way you do stop it, though, right? Or I guess in theory, if I don't know if it's even legal to make a law if you know the Senate can come in and be like, hey, here's a bill that doesn't allow this.
Rudy, I bet the Senate's going to crack down on billionaires.
Well, here's the thing, Josh. You know where they seem to crack down on is on dumb things we don't need them to crack down on.
Well, this one might not be. Once again, I do not think that keeping billionaires from pulling money out of your pocket is anything that our U.S. political system seems to care too much about. I'd welcome it. Feels like there could be some stuff we could do there.
This might be the one time where they would, but only because it'd probably be some weird law in there that would kick the money back to them. But
if you're in, boy, it is crazy how many of the top media markets do have NFL teams. You get all the way down to Orlando at 17 before you get to a city that does not have a football team.
Money.
But right, so yeah, if Tampa or Miami said we're done, do you think Orlando wouldn't love to have the Orlando Dolphins?
The Orlando Disneys?
I continue to. I mean, St. Louis would be very high on this list of like cities that don't have stadiums or don't have teams that would surely love one.
The only thing with St. Louis, there might be enough PTSD of teams continuing to leave them that it's like, well, they can't leave us if we never have it.
Do you think Oklahoma City would kick up some taxpayer dollars if every city in Kansas and Missouri told the Chiefs to bleep off, and then you can let Clark Hunt take the team back to Texas somewhere? Of course that's not going to happen. I'm not trying to fearmonger and tell you that's going to happen. It's not going to happen. But it really pisses me off that is leveraged against you, a fan of this team that you've probably been rooting for since you were a child. Now it is your tax dollars that is going to try to make this a lesser bill for Clark Hunt, who, again, is doing fine financially.
Is he, though?
I think he is.
But the Mahomes money. It's the Mahomes contract. Clark would have paid the whole stadium himself if not for Mahomes. Isn't that right? Am I doing that right?
Yeah, also...
Am I doing Twitter right now?
You twittered so well there, Rudy. The only thing it was missing was some sort of joke about Tyreek Hill being traded because he couldn't afford a new video board or something. I don't know. But he wouldn't have bought the new video board because you would have. It makes me angry. I don't like this is a thing that we've accepted as a part of the larger sports industrial complex. But here we are anyway. We'll take a break and we'll come back and talk about the football team that plays in Kansas City that we love so much. And maybe even talk about the wide receiver position a little bit. Again, clearly not going to be able to sign a big free agent because Clark's out of money, but maybe we could, find somebody in a trade that would be willing to work for free.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page.
Hey, it's former Jayhawk Greg Gurley. Kansas fans and alumni are in every city and state we play. If your favorite Jayhawk fans are missing home, send them some Joe's KC Barbecue. Nothing beats home court and championship barbecue on game day. Joe's will ship anywhere in the U.S. It's easy to reheat, and it tastes just as good at home as it does at Joe's. You can ship all of Joe's favorites, like ribs, brisket, burn ends, and even the famous Z-Man. Ordering is easy, and it's just a few clicks away at joeskc.com.
Your Kansas Jayhawks march on to the Final Four.
These guys earned it, so proud of them, proud for our program.
I think it's going to be an incredible game. It's a game that we all are looking forward to playing.
I'm just proud of my team. I'm just proud of obviously Coach Self, and it's great for the program and the university. But we're not done yet, and I'm not satisfied yet with this. I know my teammates aren't either.
Your home for March Madness and the Final Four. Sports Radio 810, WHB.
Imagine every day a sport court game day. Imagine.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
All right, we're doing this show live from the bottom of a swimming pool, and oh man, the chlorine levels are perfect in here. I'm Joshua Brisco.
On Sports Radio 810, WHB.
We can talk about the actual football team in question now. There was a...
KU Jayhawks?
No, probably not that one. Although, look, man, if you
I mean,
want me
that's
to...
the real football team I was in the area. They're not making us pay for a new stadium. They're still trying out that same 100-year-old stadium.
The Kansas Jayhawks, too. As God intended, I think. I don't know. There was a report sort of floating around this morning that I think the actual direct report really changed the scope on. And we will talk a bunch about the Chiefs wide receiver situation with Seth Keysor of the Chief of the North newsletter whenever he joins us here in about 10 minutes or so. But The report from earlier today was that Diana Rossini on ESPN said that the Chiefs were calling around about top receivers, looking to still add to this roster. That was a paraphrased report from a Twitter account that I'm not like furious or anything, but I don't think necessarily framed it quite right. The actual video tweeted out later, I quote tweeted if you want to go see it for yourself. Diana Rossini says the Chiefs are calling, quote, teams we haven't heard about, checking to see if they'd trade, quote, one of their top receivers. Now, look, I don't really like to parse the words of people speaking on television because I have spoken on television a number of times, and I almost never have, like, directly chosen every single word of a sentence to mean a ton of stuff all in one. There are layers to it. We do plenty of radio here. You know that sometimes I say things with an inference that is not actually what I meant to give it.
Doesn't sound like you.
Doesn't sound like me, like I'm doing an impression, Rudy. See, I did it again. So I'm not trying to overly dissect this, but I just wanted to at least give you the background of, to me, the clip of what Rossini was saying read a little bit more like calling the Bengals about Tyler Boyd more so than calling the Seahawks about DK Metcalf. You know what I mean? Not calling for one of your first-round picks to get shipped off for a guy that's going to want $25 million a year because you just got rid of one of those guys. But more, hey, if you're a team with maybe a number 3 receiver that seems more like a number 2, or maybe a number 2 that we think could be a number 1, that's the call that the Chiefs are making. I think that's the inference of what Rossini was saying.
Quick thing. Not to change the subject, you may have saw me put up 3 fingers. That was not 3 minutes. That was Grady Dick was shooting the 3, and I support Grady Dick. So wanted to clear that up. I didn't want you to think you only had 3 minutes left. You got like 4 minutes left.
I did think it was a 3-minute call, but I just didn't realize how emphatic you were going to be about Grady Dick.
National High School Basketball Player of the Year. The Gatorade Player of the Year.
Did you see, I did not even tweet about this because I just didn't know if it was worth it. But our friend Michael Swain tweeted out a picture of Grady Dick from some McDonald's All-American deal, I think, and he was wearing...
That's the game.
Oh, okay.
That's what's... I don't know if you have
it's
it
not
on
on
your
my TV. No.
It is on ESPN currently.
So, but he's wearing it's like a red Letterman jacket.
Yeah.
And it's got, on your Letterman jacket, it's got your name like embroidered on there. And so you might think, Josh, you're being so immature. No. It's not what you think. It's the McDonald's All-American game. I'm going to go find the picture again. His jacket says McDick.
Are you serious?
Dead serious. His jacket says McDick.
Is that on the dollar menu?
I am sure that this man has gone through plenty of bullying over the course of his life. And I don't want to add to that. I almost made a joke from what Rudy had said. I decided, no, I'm not going to do that. It's unfair to him. Might have been unfair to Rudy. I don't know.
I haven't watched a lot of his game tonight, but he's come a little short on a few threes a time or two.
See, there's not enough.
That's not a joke. That's just a fact.
No, I get it.
I've seen him shoot 2 threes, and they hit the front of the rim. He came up short.
There's not enough protection in the world to keep him from suffering the consequences of jokes about his name. And I don't want to add to that. I really don't. But his jacket says McDick. And that's just, McDonald's can't, I understand what McDonald's is doing there. I got to make sure this tweet is I didn't somehow create
Fever
this.
dream.
I will verify it. I will tweet it out. I'm going to have to do it post Seth, I think. Or you know what? Rudy, you do me a favor.
What's up?
And here, I'll give, Ronald Jones. Seen the news about Ronald Jones?
Signing with the Chiefs?
He's going to wear number 2.
Ooh.
I kind of like a running back wearing number 2.
You know what?
That's kind of fresh.
What wearing number 2 does? It makes you at least like 3 miles per hour faster.
Absolutely. You don't have the weight of the extra numerals. It's just science. I don't.
But you're immediately faster. He's now our 3rd down speed back.
So it's funny, tease to Seth, the piece that he had go up today in the newsletter is explicitly about Ronald Jones's role and Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's role, and it's super interesting. And you can beat us to the punch on that, presuming we get to all that. Okay, so here we go. This picture has a bunch of retweets, but it's just people being excited on behalf of this young man. His jacket says McDick on it. The MC is in gold, and then his last name is in white.
He's going to be a legend.
You just can't do this to this poor man. My receiver take is that I hope the Chiefs don't trade one of their top 3, maybe 4 round picks. Top 3. Let's make it a day 1, day 2 pick. Or them just to get younger and reload and younger contracts and everything. I hope they don't make a trade for a number 1 receiver because it would be a downgrade on Tyreek Hill and lessen the return you got for Tyreek Hill. If it's, a 4th rounder for Tyler Lockett or something, we can have that conversation. In fact, we will have that conversation with Seth Keysor of the Chief of the North newsletter next here on Mick Almost Entirely Sports.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Kansas City's hometown sports station, Sports Radio 810 WHB.
No matter what, we don't even got to be on the same team. Pat, Kelsey, and a whole lot of other guys. Dieter, D-Rob. I'm going to miss those guys. I know those guys still going to ball because they Hall of Famers, and they still going to do their thing.
When you want the latest on your favorite teams, tune into your hometown radio station, Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Hey Jayhawk fans, get your limited edition framed 15x7 photo collage commemorating the Kansas Jayhawks 2021-22 basketball season and Final Four appearance. Each photo lists regular season record, school logo, Final Four logo, championship history, and road to the Final Four breakdown. It will automatically be updated and upgraded if they win the championship. This is a limited edition of only 5,000, exclusive to Nico Sports. $5 of each piece sold is being donated to Make-A-Wish Missouri and Kansas. Comes ready to hang or display, and it is only $99 each. That's right, just $99 each. Fans can order at nicosports.com or call 800-345-2868. That's nicosports.com or 800-345-2868. Celebrate the Jayhawks run to the Final Four with this limited edition framed photo.
Sports Radio 810 WHB is headed to New Orleans with the Kansas Jayhawks to bring you exclusive coverage of the Final Four.
I'll be in the Big Easy bringing you interviews from Westwood One's Radio Row from coaches all around the country, and we'll be covering the Jayhawks as they try to put the finishing touches on this Final Four run.
Follow the Jayhawks on your home for March Madness, the Final Four, and National Championship. Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Mrs. Fogelman, ready to hustle for that muscle.
Membership numbers at Sly's Gym have been racking up.
22 people have signed up for 6 a.m. buns of steel.
Now he needs more certified trainers to do all the heavy lifting.
I'm gonna have to bulk up my staff.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our hiring platform instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Digital Lagoon has been creating dynamic websites for 26 years. Working with clients of all sizes, we offer comprehensive SEO strategies, design social media campaigns or newsletters to enhance your brand. Digital Lagoon also offers specialty print from trade show booths to interior signage and marketing materials. Companies all over the country rely on Digital Lagoon every day to be their marketing partner. I'm Jordan, and I'm proud to be president of Digital Lagoon. Contact me at digitallagoon.com.
Sports Radio 810 WHB is headed to New Orleans with the Kansas Jayhawks to bring you exclusive coverage of the Final Four.
I'll be in the Big Easy bringing you interviews from Westwood One's Radio Row from coaches all around the country, and we'll be covering the Jayhawks as they try to put the finishing touches on this Final Four run.
Follow the Jayhawks on your home for March Madness, the Final Four, and National Championship. Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Sports Talk powered by fans. Sports Radio 810 WHB Kansas City, the power of sports.
Get your deck ready for summer with 11% off everything at Menards. Remove dirt and stains from your deck with Sunnyside Exterior Deck Wash, free after rebates. Once your deck's clean, apply Ultra Advanced Stain and Sealant in one. It protects against abrasion and sun damage. The exterior semi-transparent wood stain is just $28.98 a gallon after sale price and 11% off. Good through April 2nd. Savings are mail-in rebates. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Now it is time for very serious football talk with the man who hates money almost as much as he hates the idea of a healthy sleep schedule.
You will find Seth Keysor everywhere except for in his or your bed, because not only does he not sleep, he's also a faithful husband. So that's important.
The man who has so many children, his wife figured he wouldn't even notice if she bought a few chickens and ducks for the backyard.
We should have an episode where we just have my children appear on the show in ascending order. So we'll do like a minute of Lucas, then 2 minutes of Isabel, then 3 minutes of... Man, I have a lot of kids.
The man who does all of this while being a lawyer in a state that has snow all 12 months of the year.
Until it freezes, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I actually felt very at home driving through southern Iowa. It was snow everywhere, and people were slowing down to like 40. It was adorable. I was driving slowly, but I literally was hanging my head out the window screaming, and that was disconcerting.
It's Seth Keysor of the Chief in the North newsletter, The Athletic, and the Times Hours podcast on Almost Entirely Sports.
The last time we had Seth Keysor on this show, I don't know if any of the current Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers were actually on the roster, and there were several guys on the roster who now are very much no longer here. And you might think, Josh, I mean, it's been a little while, of course, but I'm still so excited to hear what Seth thinks about all of the things that the Kansas City Chiefs have done over these last couple of weeks since the last Seth Keysor Tuesday or Monday or whatever it would have been. I understand that you might be thinking about that, but unfortunately, Seth's also a lawyer, and so we are here for just a legal breakdown of the news of these last couple of days. Seth, I hope you're doing well. I hope Jazz is doing well. I hope your kids are doing well.
Hey, hold up. What did you just say?
Just that I'm excited to talk to you, and that you're my good friend, and that I hope your wife and kids are doing...
Did you just say my wife's name?
Yeah. I feel like that we've established that precedent, right?
Keep my wife's name out of your mouth, or I will verbally slap you right here.
What are you gonna do? Tase me?
This is normal adult behavior.
Normal adult Seth Keysor, Chief of the North newsletter, at Real MN Chiefs fan on Twitter, slap expert, legal expert, chief expert of all of these things, and a staunch defender of his wife. Certainly has never made any jokes about her on this show or on Times Ours, which you can also hear me and say one other person on the Athletic, the Times Ours podcast. Never ending that show with a series of jokes about your wife's poor judgment. It would never happen.
There's literally no way that I or anyone has ever made any jokes about their own wife. And therefore, if anyone says anything about her, I've decided that it's okay. Well, although I really want to make sure that if I slap you, you might actually go down. Because otherwise I might just feel a little foolish. Like if you stand there and take it like iron-jawed Chris Rock,
yes,
who apparently, I loved his work in Rockies 1 and 2.
Yeah.
He took quite a beating in Rocky 4, but that was Rockies 1 and 2. He was phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, there are a tremendous number of things from that moment, and for me, I don't know if you were watching the Oscars. I certainly wasn't.
No.
But I'm on Twitter all the time, and there are a few nights that are just, as I saw you tweet something about it, like just literally everybody opens up Twitter to fire off one joke or one observation or to just soak in the zeitgeist. I definitely don't want the hashtag discourse of this week at all. I'm deeply uninterested. But it was a great Twitter night.
Yeah. Oh, it was a fantastic Twitter night. It was the number of oh man, now his mom's going to send him to Bel Air jokes. We're just phenomenal. The number, I mean, just the memes that were immediately created. It was all, like you said, I have no interest in actually, other than joking around, participating in any discourse about it whatsoever, because I just don't care that much.
Yeah.
But Twitter was fantastic. Is it quite as fantastic as the Chiefs' new safety is at Twitter? Close.
Ooh, that's true. So we've talked about Justin Reed here, I think, but Devin Bush, Twitter game so far, really, really fan favorite for me immediately, just because he understands how stupid all this is.
He really does. And so people who don't know, if you don't participate in Twitter, Deion Bush, who I could be wrong here, but I think was signed probably.
Did I just call him Devin Bush, by the way? If so, I'm really sorry. Sorry, Deion, you've had a rough go.
There is a Devin Bush out there.
There sure is.
But if there was so Deion Bush, who I think, and we can talk about that if we want. I haven't reviewed his film. I think he's probably signed to be the third safety. Would be my guess. But he's more so signed. He's a special teams guy. But I just don't know much about him. Right? That's just how it is.
Yes.
So he gets signed right as the Tyreek Hill stuff is going.
Yes.
Oh man, he's a little small for a box linebacker. He's about 6'2", 6'0", 190 pounds. Of course, that's when he came out of college. For all I know, I don't weigh the same as when I came out of college.
Yeah, and you guys have a lot of things in common, like being a professional athlete. So I mean, it could have. Not that I would in any way, shape, or form make fun of your weight or appearance, and God knows that this show.
It's a medical condition, when I eat a bunch of garbage food and don't exercise, I gain weight.
Right, and look, I mean, again, you are consistent on this. You have never made a joke about anyone else's medical condition on this show. That's never happened.
Fortunately, we are here the only two non-hypocrites on planet Earth. The chances of us finding one another are minuscule, but we did it. So Deion Bush, I think he got enough snaps the last year, in particular with the Bears, that I think there's a possibility that they're looking at him as kind of a third safety type guy. They'll probably bring in a few other guys because they've got their starting safeties. So he signs during the Tyreek Hill stuff, and you saw this. I mean, so he says some version of what's up, Chiefs Kingdom. And the replies, I mean, people were going through it.
Yes.
And then he tweets like an hour later, like, my bad, y'all. I'll hit y'all back later. Mocking emoji. And then what was it? 2 days later, he says, Chiefs Kingdom, what's up?
Yes.
And he's got hey, we're back to me describing GIFs.
Yes.
You got a GIF of someone peeking from around the corner.
Did you see the most recent edition of this?
I'm looking right now. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, this Kansas barbecue good.
Yeah, so Q39 waves at him with the little Simpsons waving gif and says, welcome to the family. He responds, yo, what an introductory to Kansas barbecue. Y'all food, fire emoji, fire emoji. And then now it's 500 people telling him that it's not Kansas barbecue, despite the fact that Q39, are both locations on the Kansas side? Is there one on each side? I can't remember. But he goes, well, if it's not Kansas barbecue, what am I supposed to call it? Like, what? Please stop yelling at me, Chiefs fans. I just want to play football for your team.
Yeah, he's just trying. And he is a genuinely funny guy.
Yeah.
And I think there's a sense of self-awareness there. I really hope he does well in the field and is able to, grab some snaps on defense just for the press conferences alone. Which apparently might be in person now.
Yeah, and they're opening. They just announced a little bit earlier today. They're opening locker rooms back up. So
yeah. So I mean, that's awesome news. But no, Twitter has been exceptional the last few days. Well, and since you and I, like you said, I mean, since we last talked, I think that was before they signed Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yep.
Certainly before the Tyreek Hill stuff.
Yep.
And now, of course, they've signed Valdez-Scantling, which which I'm going to keep calling him MVS because I'm going to keep getting his name kind of wrong, even though at this point, I've said it enough times that I'm pretty confident, but you hear the hesitation when I say it.
Almost every time I can hear it, yes.
Yeah. Valdez-Scantling.
Mark VS? Is that it?
Yeah, MVS, what's his name? So it's and now they've signed Ronald Jones. Have they signed any defensive players besides Deion Bush? They did sign a linebacker.
Yes, probably the Ben Neiman replacement, it seems. But
yes,
I made this point with Matt Derrick last night. Like, we have a lot of offseason. We'll find our time to talk about those guys more, I'm sure. But this might, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm not. I mean, I'm thinking about it now. I'm not wrong. Like, this is the most bonkers overhaul of a week of action that we have seen from this roster in the Patrick Mahomes era. Like, it just the main lines. Like, we do not have to dig for takes on this one. Everybody knew Tyreek Hill, obviously. Everybody knows Juju Smith-Schuster. Lots of people know MVS, and those guys are all the same position. Like, it's an important one. I don't know. It's just a bonkers time.
It is, and I think one thing that separates it from, like, okay, so last year when they released Schwartz and Fisher, like, on the same day or back-to-back days, that was huge, right? But, like, you didn't see the corresponding moves that same week.
Right.
It wasn't all at once. Like, the offensive line overhaul was one of the craziest things I've ever seen, but that was over the course of a free agency signing, then a trade, and then the draft, and then, you know, some roster churning and all that kind of stuff. And that was the big thing, is, like, people knew that Fisher and Schwartz were probably going to be cut. Because of the timing of their injuries and their contracts. Everyone knew that. After the 2018 season, especially when Sutton got fired, everyone knew the defense was going to get completely overhauled.
Yep.
Like, people knew Justin Houston probably wouldn't be back. People knew Eric Berry wasn't going to be back. People knew, like, just the whole thing, that Dee Ford was probably going to be traded. Everyone knew. This, like, came out of nowhere. Just like, Tyreek Hill might be traded. 3 hours later, Tyreek Hill has been traded. Yeah. I was like, well, holy crap. And there's so many takes about it right now. The Chiefs have been really clear that they wanted to pay him, but they weren't going to pay him that. And that's something that we should probably talk about, because I've had a lot of people talk to me about his contract and stuff. And I don't know how much people really want to listen to more conversation about Tyreek Hill. That's, like, dominated everything. It's just worth noting that, like, after this season, what the Dolphins did is they essentially signed him to a 4-year extension. But they did it in a way that kind of lowered his cap hit this year, which makes his cap hit next year, if they just do the roster bonus that's incoming, $31 million. The year after that, it's about $25 million. The year after that, it's about $28 million.
Yep.
And I'm not even talking about the final year, which is like $50 million. That's not
totally fake. Right.
So it's actually a really good lesson in NFL contracts in how things can work, because they also, like, next year they could lower his cap hit by converting his roster bonus to a signing bonus, and then it would be more like a like next year would be what, like a $24 million, $25 million, but then it would raise the subsequent years by $2.5 million.
Right.
And so that's a lot of money. I personally think if someone, gun to my head, Seth, what do you really think? I think Tyreek Hill wanted to live in Miami.
Yep. He said as much now, yeah.
Yeah, he basically, like, he talked about money playing a part, but he talked about, like, driving around some night and calling Mahomes, and, like, the decision had been made.
Yeah.
It's not like the team was just, like once he made the decision, I think Miami was always going to be it, which is actually a good thing, because I looked at the trade offer the Jets made, and I really prefer the Miami one.
Yeah, I was thinking as those rumors started, like, I hope that the Jets end up making this work. Tyreek Hill wasn't. I don't think he was going to sign with the Jets either. It seemed like the Jets were getting played for leverage by the Chiefs and Tyreek Hill is my read on that.
Yep.
But I was like, oh well, they had some multiple high first round picks. Those were not in the deal. Like that, you're right. That I don't feel awesome about the return they got from Miami. I would feel worse if they had settled for the offer from the Jets.
Yeah. Yep. And that's it. It was just such a weird thing.
Yeah.
Like, to see it all unfold, because Tyreek Hill has been one of the transcendent foundational players for the most successful stint in Chiefs history.
Yep.
Because I know people are still upset last year. It's like, you lost in the AFC Championship in overtime. I get it, but that's still a really successful season. And so you've got 2 Super Bowl appearances, a Super Bowl win, 2 AFC Championship appearances. That beats any other 4-year stretch in Chiefs history by a solid margin.
Yeah.
I think the only reason, and they've been so good that people are disappointed they've only got 1 Super Bowl win. How quickly have hopes and expectations changed?
Yep.
It's a really good look at the human condition.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, if you were going to think about the players who defined this run, Mahomes is obviously the first one. And then it's either, with all due respect to Chris Jones, because, I mean, he did some great stuff in the Super Bowl, but it's either Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce next, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And because Wasp was to Tyreek Hill, I'd say probably he's second. And so it's just such a weird thing to have happen. And so, but now you see like the team is like completely rebuilding its offense in a weird way, like, or more like reloading or resetting, because it's going to be a very different looking offense this year. And that's interesting to me, like what they're currently doing in terms of personnel wise and how they're trying to load up. And now apparently they might trade for another receiver, which I'm curious what you think of it, because I know you like the idea of cheaper assets and that kind of stuff. And I can't figure out what I think right now at this point. I'm getting whiplash.
Well, that's sort of the thing about all this. It's so strange. We talked about this a little bit on Times Are, so I know you got a little bit of kind of where I'm coming from in terms of like making a move like this is generally something that I would be in favor of. But the receiver position is different for me than almost any other position in the sport. Like I think quarterback is one, and then you could start having conversations like, where is it receiver or pass rusher or something like that. But also now at this point, as somebody who probably would have given Tyreek Hill this contract, if that, and again, like to your point, if the Chiefs would have given him dollar for dollar this exact same deal, I think he would have rather signed it in Miami, just based off of what we know now. But I don't want to see them move a day one or day two pick for a receiver that they're going to give a contract to, because if you're going to not have more picks and pay a bunch of money to a wide receiver, I would have just done that with the guy who's been doing it here. Like, and maybe there was somebody way younger, or if this trade would have included Jalen Waddle or some other receiver on a rookie contract, or even if it's, I was looking through it this morning, and I think I said, based off what the actual clip of what Diana Rossini said on ESPN, the way that she framed it sounded less like a first-round pick for DK Metcalf and more like calling the Bengals about Tyler Boyd, right? Like, she was saying, calling teams who were not thinking about one of their top receivers. It wasn't a top three receiver in football. It was a top three receiver on a roster, perhaps. And if they send a fourth for, I don't know, that Tyler Lockett would probably go for more than that, but he's also old at this point. If they send a fourth for one of their 2 fourths for Tyler Lockett, fine by me. Let's see. Let's try to make this team better right now. But I really hope that the long-term plan that they're signaling right now is the actual plan. Because if the draft comes around and the only pick they make in the first round is at 18 because they've packaged their 2 firsts together to move up or whatever, you've now lessened what you got back for Tyreek Hill. And so I don't know. I am also more conflicted than I have been on just about any Chiefs related sort of salary or trade move like this.
Right. And I'm trying to remember where is that second pick? That's at like 50, right? The second round pick that they got?
29, 30, 50. I'll get you the full list here, but those are the first 3.
Right, and then they've got their own second round pick.
Right, which
so it's interesting because of the unique position they were in to already have an extra 3rd round pick. And then they got another 4th round pick. And then next year I think they get a 4th and a 6th round pick. Which the usefulness for those draft picks, honestly, in my opinion, is if you do want to do some stuff, you have picks that are, you don't know what they might be. Maybe you win it all again, and those picks lose some value. Whatever. So there's a lot of, they have more draft capital than I can remember in any draft since after they traded Jared Allen.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. Yeah, I think
and
you're right.
You would have been
in diapers. I was 12.
Yeah. And so it's a totally unique position for them to be in. One thing that I think is kind of interesting, and this is where it is fun. Like, I know Chiefs fans were really upset for a couple days, and I get it. Tyreek Hill's a transcendent player, all that stuff. But it makes this time of year more fun when the future is suddenly so wide open. And it's very wide open in a different way than it was like in 2013, right? It's wide open in the sense that you have the best quarterback in the league. You have Andy Reid. You have Travis Kelce. You have Chris Jones. Like, there's still talent. You're a playoff team and a contending team. But now, all of a sudden, you have all these picks, and you've got cap space, and you've got... So it's an interesting thing. So there's so many different directions they could go. One thing that's interesting to me because I agree with you. Like, if you're going to just pay a wide receiver huge money, Tyreek Hill makes the most sense. Yeah. My thought is what they might be trying to do is have a little bit of both worlds. So let's say we'll use Tyler Lockett as the example, just because he's a well-known, very good receiver who isn't as good as Tyreek Hill, but is widely acknowledged as a very, very good player, right?
Mm-hmm. And is, I think, 29? Yeah, 29.
Yeah, 29, so you're getting probably another 2 or 3 really good years out of him. Mm-hmm. So let's say if the Chiefs traded for him because they would not inherit his signing bonus with that contract he just signed was $19 million. And so that's $3.8 million every year against the cap that the Chiefs don't have to worry about, right? So his 2020 cap hit for the Chiefs would be more like $6 million, which is, I think, there's 2022 cap hit, right?
Yes.
His 2023 cap hit would be more like a 13-ish million, give or take. And there's some options involved here. And I don't think those are roster bonuses, and so they would just be the options that they would have to pick up if they kept him on the roster. And then in 2024, so you'd have him for 2 years at a very reasonable price.
At a price that is very, very similar to the Marquez Valdez-Scantling price tag.
Right. You'd have too much dead cap to really cut him, which is different from MVS, which we should talk about. And this is maybe where, like, talking about how contracts work a lot is helpful. Because, like, MVS, in reality, is a 1-year deal with a pretty easy out after year 2, or in year 2.
Right.
And then
before year 2, the Chiefs could get out of that after. It could be a 1-year deal with a couple kind of ugly dead cap, because they would pull all that 3rd-year dead cap into year 2 also. So it would be,
true.
It wouldn't be flattering, but they could absolutely do it.
But they could do it. Yep, it's very different than like Frank Clark's contract the year before 2022, where it was like you can't get out. You literally cannot. There's just no... And even in 2022, there's a reason they kept him around. It's because his dead cap was so high. They were like, we might as well find some way to figure this out.
Yep.
But then in that 3rd year, and again, I'm using Tyler Lockett as an example here to get to the overarching point. In that 3rd year, when his cap hit would rise up to $20 million finally, the dead cap is still fairly high, but not so high that you couldn't cut loose.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a pricier receiver, but not a crazy pricey receiver. And you could get him for less draft capital than what they traded Tyreek Hill for. So my thought here is, what if, and this is probably what I would do because I'm a hedger, right? I always try to hedge bets. So for me, it's like, if I can try to have a little bit of both worlds, I do. And so if what they want is to find a pretty high-level receiver who's, 80, 85% as good as Tyreek Hill, which is a very high-level player, but they're able to get him at, 70% of the cost, and they managed to accrue 3 extra draft picks in the process, I think that's a winning process. I think that I can get behind. Now, if they were to trade, let's say they traded all the picks that they got for Hill,
right,
and they traded all of those for DK Metcalf. That to me is like, basically you're just swapping out Tyreek Hill for DK Metcalf.
Right.
Probably to pay them about the same amount. And that to me, that's not a winning process. Or even if you pay DK Metcalf $2 million a year less or something.
And he's
to me,
a little younger,
Yeah, he's a little younger, and that makes sense. And so he might have more room to grow. He's obviously physically a different type of player, but he is not as good as Tyreek Hill.
Correct.
And, I mean, he's closer than Lockett, although Lockett's a really good player. But he's 29, and he doesn't have that same freakish thing, right? Metcalf is a freak, similar to Hill, just in different ways. Although it is interesting, the idea, and I think one reason Chiefs fans like the idea of considering him, at least the reason I do, is physical coverage has kind of bothered them. It never bothered Hill because he was too quick to really press. It doesn't bother Metcalf because he will throw you out of the club.
He is Chris Rock here. You can do whatever you want at the line of scrimmage. He's not worried about it. He's fine.
Yeah. He's gonna eat that slap and move on with his day and make a hilarious joke about getting slapped on live television.
Yep.
So I think that's one thing I could get behind, is trying to have your cake and eat it too. Get yourself a good player who, that way, because you can still, with MVS there, And so we're going to keep the Tyler Lockett example. You can insert whatever player you prefer here or there, right? Mm-hmm. Where he's expensive, but not nearly as expensive. He's good, but not as good. But then what you would say is, well, instead of having Tyreek Hill this year, what we have Tyler Lockett. We have MVS, who they might not have been able to sign otherwise. And we have multiple draft picks. Mm-hmm. I think that's a winning process there, as opposed to the, trade the farm for a dude who, unless they're going to get, who could they get that would be an improvement on Hill?
I don't know that they're specific to, again, like this offense. I don't think that guy exists. Like, right. It's not about, and again, I think the Chiefs get this. I understand this might come up again very briefly when we talk about Ronald Jones, but like, the Clyde pick really did sort of shake me in my faith in some of the stuff that the front office does and doesn't understand. I generally think they do a good job and understand how team building is working, although I've got my questions about some positional value things anyway. Mm-hmm. I think the Chiefs would understand that the winning play here is not to get rid of Tyreek Hill and then attempt to replace Tyreek Hill 1-for-1 as close as you can get. And frankly, maybe this is our little segue into the other two guys they brought in now. Juju Smith-Schuster could have been a number 2, and you wrote about him, and we talked about him as a number 2 behind Tyreek Hill, and it would have been awesome. Yeah. But clearly, I think the Chiefs knew by that point there's a real good chance that Tyreek Hill may or may not be here. If they didn't know he was done at that point. At the very least, I don't think they were confident he was going to be around. Obviously, they signed MVS after the Hill trade happens. If Juju and Valdez-Scantling were the number 2 and number 3 receivers on this team, and if we're going to get those two and then Hardman as 2-3-4, it'd be the best 2-3-4 that the Chiefs have had, at least better than last year, right? But the number 1 guy's not there right now. Right. And so I think that it's actually, as things currently stand, feels like a downgrade. But for sure, they're also not done. I understand that either from the trade or through the draft process. So I have no issue with spending plenty of time talking about Tyreek Hill. By the way, as we've pointed out, he was the second or third most important player on this team's most successful run in the history of the franchise. Anybody who says, "Well, you guys still talking about Tyreek Hill? He's gone already." You can wait. Like you can skip ahead, or you can tune back in later. We're talking about Tyreek Hill.
You can tweet me at 2:30 in the morning, like someone did a couple days ago, and I happened to be awake and I engaged it for way longer than I should have.
You sure did, but the one thing it did alert me to do was that guy just got a mute from me, and then I was able to move on with my day. I muted him, then I muted the thread. Now we're here just talking about the impact that guy had on our lives, which was minimal.
And you know what? If you're listening, I appreciate you listening, and the reason I stopped responding is because you took Jesus' name in vain.
Oh, wow,
that's actually true.
That deep. That's fantastic.
Which is, it's
everybody listening. I appreciate, but can I throw this out here? This might be really close to just complaining at people who definitely don't deserve to be complained at.
Ooh.
If you are listening to some wonderful free content and it's not exactly what you want it to be, that's okay. You can fast forward or try a different hour of the show or whatever. Like, but this isn't even me being like, I'm going to talk about Pokemon if I want to. We're talking about Tyreek Hill. Like the first episode after the trade happens. What are you complaining about?
It was less than 48 hours. And I would just say also, like, I'm happy to hear constructive criticism or even not so constructive, just being like, hey, I didn't really like that episode. Oh, okay, cool. Thank you for letting me know.
If you have a reason, if there's something, sure.
Don't be mean to me. You can.
Don't say move on from Tyreek Hill the first time that we're talking about Tyreek Hill after he got traded to the Dolphins.
And I don't even mind if someone tells me to do, but just like, you don't have to be mean about it. Like, hey, let's be nice to each other. If nothing else, maybe we all learned collectively that maybe we all need to be a little bit nicer to one another and not like be mean about each other or slap each other or, such things. Those are just my thoughts.
It's a pretty soft thing of you to say.
Yeah, I know. But it is, one thing that's interesting with the moves they've made since Hill is they have options now. You kind of mentioned like the most talented, like 2, 3, 4. Mm-hmm. So Kelsey's always been part of the pass catching group.
Good point.
Right?
Yep.
And so the best pass catching group they probably had at its peak was when they had probably the 2019 season where they had, Hill obviously and Kelsey obviously, and then Sammy Watkins down the stretch. And then you had a I'm trying to think. McCole Hardman was drafted. I'm like totally losing it right now.
I would scroll back up to McCole Hardman, but I do still have the 2008 draft up because the Chiefs had a dozen picks that year as well and actually made a dozen picks. Glenn Dorsey, Brandon Albert, Brandon Flowers, Jamal Charles. That's a pretty good good first four there.
That draft was unbelievable.
Sorry,
okay,
I still had that open from our conversation from a million years ago. Hardman was a 2019 draft pick.
So they had
Thornhill were
Hardman
on that team. Yeah.
So they had Hardman, they had Pringle, they had Robinson. It was a nice deep group.
Mm-hmm.
I would say because of Watkins' lack of availability, there's some problems there with that. But that's the best receiving group they've had this year. If you compare what they have currently right this second to what they had last year, obviously the depending on what order you want to put guys in, Tyreek Hill is a better player than Juju Smith-Schuster, right, by a sizable margin. However, MVS is a better player than who they had doing deep threat stuff last year. And that's because, by the way, Tyreek Hill wasn't being the deep threat last year. That's the only reason I'm saying that. That's not, he's better being a deep threat than Hill. Virtually no one is. But they stopped. They had Hill running underneath routes the vast majority of the year. And there's a reason for that. And so that does balance some things out. Like if you were to not be thinking about what last year looked like, and someone came to you and they showed you a group of MVS, Juju Smith-Schuster, Travis Kelce, and McCole Hardman, you'd say that group's decent. That's a decent group. You want more than decent, though, obviously. Yeah. But it's certainly not a bad group, and they have some really complementary skill sets, which is nice to see. But you can see why they're looking to add one more person. And I think the reason they would be looking into a veteran is because they want someone to come in that can do something right away.
Absolutely.
As opposed to waiting for a rookie.
And it's also worth noting, as we've already pointed out, that MVS deal could be as short as a one-year deal. Juju is a one-year deal. Hardman is on a one-year deal. So in terms of drafting guys, I don't think I'm going to have to twist your arm to say like one of those top 50 picks has to be on a receiver who's not only like here for the future and also making contributions soon, but like that would need to become their number one receiver at some point in the next couple of years because it's not going to be any of the other guys that I just named. Even if Juju gets a nice second contract after this season, there's a void here now.
Absolutely. And that's something that's really, really worth noting is that MVS, like you said, could be a one-year deal. More likely a 2-year deal, but could be a 1-year deal. And okay, fine, it's a 2-year deal, you know,
right?
And then Juju Smith-Schuster is a 1-year deal, and that's going to work out probably one of two ways. And either way results in him maybe not being a Chief.
Yes, correct.
Now, if he absolutely slays in the offense, good for him. But then there's the question: how much do you pay him? Because if they didn't pay Tyreek Hill a top of the market contract, they're not going to pay it to Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, he could have 1,600 yards and 12 touchdowns next year, and they're not going to pay him a top of the market contract.
The best result for the odds of Juju being a Chief after next season is that he plays like 12 games and looks pretty good through that process, but not incredible, but like definitely good enough that he can be a complimentary piece for Treylon Burks or somebody that they drafted 29.
Yeah, that's probably and that
it would be better if he was just good this year because the football happening this year does still matter for the Chiefs. I do
absolutely, and that's one thing I would say. Them signing MVS to that type of deal, it says to me that even if 2022 is a soft reset, I don't think they're punting on 2022.
Yeah.
Although when I look at the defensive roster, I am. Befuddled.
Let's talk about it. Yeah, so let me say this. If you want to read the film reviews, it's really good stuff on Juju, even though it was with Tyreek Hill, and on MVS, both up in the Chief of the North newsletter. Seth also wrote about a post-Tyreek Hill world. Like, there's a lot of stuff that he has churned out here over the last couple of weeks. That's at mnchiefsfan.substack.com. You can go to bit.ly/Seth really hates money to get the incredible offer that is $12 for an entire year. Plus it locks in that rate. It's not going to go up to $50 next year or whatever. It is $12 if you lock it in now. So you can do that at mnchiefsfan.substack.com and you can get the promo offer through there. But we'll have more time also to talk about the shape of the offense and what's going to evolve there. We didn't talk about the defense at all in Times Ours. I haven't talked to you about the defense, maybe outside of Frank Clark restructuring, but I've read what you've written. I heard what you just said there. It's not looking very good, Seth. It's empty. There are some empty spaces here.
Yeah, I was writing the day before the Tyreek Hill trade, and I said, it's only March, but what is the plan for the Chiefs defense? Mm-hmm. And what set this off was, the Vikings signed Zadarius Smith, and they decided to pay Danielle Hunter his option. Mm-hmm. Which on the surface, neither of those things have anything to do with the Chiefs. But they do.
They do, yeah.
In that those were kind of the last two really high level. And both of those guys, if Smith is healthy, he's a really high level edge. Like one of the best in the league the last few years. Danielle Hunter, not quite, he's not at one of the best level, but he's a top 10 pass rusher. And that's saying a lot in a league that has a ton of really good edge rushers, right? Those are the last high level options. They didn't get Chandler Jones, they didn't get Von Miller, they didn't get who Denver signed.
Khalil Mack got traded.
Khalil Mack got traded, but not to back to the Raiders. Or no, to the Chargers.
To the Chargers, back to the AFC West, yeah.
Yeah, back to the AFC West. You've got the Broncos signed the Cowboys' other rusher. I do this with his name every time. It wasn't Lawrence, but Gregory.
Randy Gregory. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I was also.
Gregory.
I think I checked out somewhere in your list of names there, and I wasn't sure who you were fishing for, and I was a bad teammate.
And so it is a little frustrating that a lot of these guys that people want the Chiefs to sign ended up in the AFC West. That's frustrating. That's really, really, really frustrating, actually. But it's not just the edge rusher issue. It's that if you look at the roster right now, and it's March, there's plenty of time, but anyone that says, well, it's only March, you've got to tell me what a plan could be.
Yeah.
Because
that's good.
Let's say that, and two of the issues that I wrote about are maybe something they've looked at. They've signed now a guy that does have starting experience at safety, could be maybe their third safety. They've signed Jermaine Carter, who seems like he's a logical replacement for Ben Neiman, so their third linebacker. So that's great. You still have your really, whatever corner. You still need a starting corner.
Yes.
You still need a starting defensive end. You still need another defensive end because you need 4. Unless we want to really count on Josh Kando taking a big leap forward, Mike Dana's a rotational guy. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy for him being a rotational guy.
Can he be 4, or do you think that's...
He could be 4.
You need a 2 and a 3. The Chiefs at the edge need a 1 and a 3. I mean...
Yeah. Well, yeah, because Frank Clark's not a 1.
No.
Now, hey, maybe in this really crazy year, maybe he comes back and puts together like he did in 2018. But that was 4 years ago at this point.
Maybe I get abs this offseason also. You're right. Those two things could happen.
Yeah, in theory, they could. They are possibilities. But they really need a 1 as an edge rusher, and they really need, ideally, a 3, like you said. And Dana and Kando, we'll see. Kando's got some good physical tools, but he didn't really show a ton last year. And expecting a huge leap forward is a lot.
Yep.
They need another defensive tackle. They brought back Noddy, so, they've got a guy who can take those starting nose tackle snaps. But Wharton and Saunders, even though they've both developed a little bit, Saunders in particular last year, but he struggled with injuries, and neither of them were consistent in terms of adding pass rush. So their defensive line, the thing that they talked about the most, is kind of a bare cupboard. There's Chris Jones, and all due respect to Frank Clark, but his level of play warrants saying it this way. Really, on the defensive line right now, it is Chris Jones and a bunch of rotational level players.
Yeah.
And it just is bizarre to see. And so even if they've maybe I made the list here, they don't have a second high level or even above average pass rusher. They've got Chris Jones and that's it. Melvin Ingram's still a free agent. He was their second best pass rusher last year. Mm-hmm. They don't have a second interior pass rusher. They do now maybe have a third, or no, they don't even have a third proven rotation level defensive end on the roster.
Nope.
And that's if you say Mike Dana is a second proven, at least rotation level guy. And that's what I mean. I'm not talking a starter. I'm talking a rotational level guy. They don't have a proven third cornerback, and they just lost their best cornerback.
Yeah, I think you're even being a little... I'm coming around on hold on, CBDM and cornerbacks don't matter. I'm coming around at this point specifically for the Chiefs, but right now it is L'Jarius Sneed and DeAndre Baker and Rashad Fenton.
Yep. And Fenton and Sneed are guys that I trust to be on the field, but they do have limitations, and neither was great last year. They were okay. They were good in spurts, but they weren't great. Ward was better than either of them last year in terms of consistency. That's the reason why he was the only corner that was asked to occasionally trail opposing wide receivers.
And I think part of the logic of corners not really mattering is that you've invested in your elite pass rush so much that it makes their job easier. Which, as we have detailed, has not happened this offseason.
Indeed. And that's the big problem there is like their pass rush isn't remotely good enough to rely on that. Now, and then again, you've got the issue of third safety, and that's even before you get into depth.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so there's things to be excited about on defense. I really like Justin Reed. I think he brings additional athleticism. Matthew just wasn't that kind of athlete anymore at this point in his career. I think he also brings a physicality that Matthew wasn't quite there with at this point in his career. That's fine. But to say he's going to be an upgrade right away, that's questionable. But maybe that would be great. And if he adds to the speed and physicality of the defense, that's great. So we can get excited about that. We can be excited about the linebacker duo clearly being the plan moving forward as Gay and Bolton. That's great. Chris Jones is still an elite player. But, man, the cupboard is bare, and the defense was not good last season. They had a stretch of like 5 or 6 games where they looked great. Part of that was the offenses they were playing. But part of it was Frank Clark playing in a way that he has not consistently played, so you can't count on that. Part of it was Melvin Ingram, who is not here right now. Part of it was Charvarius Ward playing out of his mind. He's not here right now. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, there's just a lot that's bare in the cupboard. And so while people are talking about the offense, the defense has me much, much more concerned. And maybe the Chiefs are pretty convinced they can put together at least an average defense. But, man, it really sounded like this was going to be a point of emphasis. And so far it hasn't been. And I think that's probably why – that's probably my biggest issue with the Hill trade is that it creates another glaring hole.
Yeah.
When you already had so many to address. Now, to be fair, now they've got 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks and 2 third-round picks. That's awesome.
Well, so this is what I was going to add for you here because I've got a big question that I'm interested to hear what your answer is going to be. But this isn't the same thing as you said earlier of, complaining about a lack of free agent moves just as soon as the minute free agency opens or before the tampering begins. Free agency is largely swung through its waves. Also, though, the only thing you didn't mention there, 2 fourth-round picks as well. They have 8 picks in the top 135. Everything after that is a 7th. So I'm trying to say 8 and not the 12. It's also a reason, all that depth and everything, all of the positional needs, all of that depth is why I hope they make 7 of those 8 picks, maybe. Certainly 6 of those 8 picks, because I think this roster needs 8 contributors and hopefully a couple of those guys are more than that.
And that's the big thing there. The roster needs like 8 contributors. And you can't count on getting 8 contributors with those 8 picks.
It's a huge ask.
It's way too much of an ask. And that's just, if you, the way that I framed it, if they get 4 year 1 contributors, and by contributors, I don't mean guys who just eat snaps, but I mean like genuine average to above average contributors. If you get 4 with those 8 picks, that's a win, especially in year 1. And if one of them even is a high level contributor, that's a huge win. Now, 2 of them, you start just getting into kind of out of this world results. And so that's one reason why people are so tempted to trade up, because they want to increase their likelihood of grabbing a contributor. The problem is the draft is pretty darn random.
Yep.
And sometimes you just get it wrong. You know what my biggest problem with the Clyde Edwards-Helaire pick is? Now that I've slid onto your side.
How annoying I've been about it?
No, well, that's up there. But a big thing for me, the positional value thing matters. It's not what I would have done.
Yeah.
What matters to me nearly as much or just as much is that you do an investment that goes against the analytics, and you got it wrong.
Yep.
As far as what we've seen so far.
Yep.
On the player himself. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is fine. He's a perfectly decent running back. That's great. But they either haven't utilized him to his skill set, he hasn't been healthy, or whatever reason, right? And he's gone and he's done a few interviews talking about health. And so, who knows? Maybe we've seen an entirely different him. But you if you're gonna defy the analytics, as it were, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like even to an extent, like taking a center in the second round is doing that. But when he's Creed Humphrey, people are like, cool, that's fair.
Nick Bolton is probably somewhere between those two of like very good player, not what I would have done, but I'm not up at night because he seems pretty good.
Yeah, and Bolton's another good example of that, where a thumping linebacker who to his credit, he's shown a little more range in the pros than I expected. Yeah. It's kind of like the bizarro what happened to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Clyde Edwards-Helaire's speed issues have been more magnified in the NFL than I expected. And that's one of the problems, right? Going from college to the pros, you just don't know how it's going to look all the time. Because I thought that Nick Bolton's speed issues would be more magnified at the NFL, where he's really kind of looked like the same dude he looked like in college.
Yeah.
And that's weird.
Very. But cool with me.
Yeah, and what some people commented on, linebacker's a unique position as well, where when you get a guy that just plays his absolute butt off every single snap, usually that kind of stuff doesn't quite matter as much, in terms of quantifiably stuff. But quantifiably stuff, me speak good. But
this segment's gone really long. You were due for one little slip up.
Yeah, but like with a guy like Bolton, that does matter. Like when you have a guy that is legitimately just hitting the bejesus out of everything in sight, never takes a single second off of any snap, that does matter at certain positions. Yep. So you can live with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Even though it's not quite what you would have done. But when you let's say the Chiefs had taken Jonathan Taylor.
Yep. You took the words out of my mouth.
And that's
let me say real quick, I would have hated that pick.
Yeah.
Would have hated it.
But you would be more okay with it now than you are with Clyde, because Jonathan Taylor's been a much better football player in the NFL. And even then you say, yeah, this was probably replaceable. You probably shouldn't have done it. But at least you have an elite player at the position.
It's almost, at that point, it's almost this is really showing my hand, but it's almost a consolation prize. It's like you did a bad process and made a choice that I think is unsound. Yeah. The consolation prize is that your bad process gave you a pretty good result. So what am I going to do? Complain about it on the radio?
and that's the problem. Is it's like in terms of like cap space. We can talk about maybe how ill-advised it is to pay a left guard as much money as they paid Joe Thuney, but you can live with it because it's like, maybe it's not the direction I think is the wisest way to go with Cash. But when he plays really, really well, including with a club on his hand, Orlando Brown got injured. That's fine. I'll just play left tackle and play at a high level against Trey Hendrickson.
Yep.
Okay, you know what? You talked me into it. Yep. But that's where they got it wrong there, and that of course it's demonstrative of how the draft can look, because Clyde Edwards-Helaire, while he wasn't the consensus number one running back, he was considered by most draft nicks like, oh man, what a beautiful fit for Andy Reid's offense, and that's what I thought. And then it just doesn't pan out. So all this is a long road to a short thought, that they really do need contributors now for 2022, and that's one thing where all this draft capital is great for the future, but I'm an impatient man. And if the last 2 years of the world, as I gesture vaguely at everything, have shown us everything, I want to value the future, but I don't want to overvalue it either.
Well, also, this, again, not to keep pushing everybody into the darkness, but Travis Kelce turns 33 in October. I don't think he's about to fall off, but I do not want Travis Kelce to spend a single season of the remainder of his career on a team that is not absolutely crushing the entire universe. I don't know, man.
Yeah. That's another thing. The Kelce Hill window of Patrick Mahomes' career is over.
Yep.
The Travis Kelce window doesn't have to be.
Yep.
And that's where Travis Kelce's a unique player that you will, there's no way they will be as good at tight end once, hopefully in 3-4 years,
5,
he
6,
starts
7,
to fall off.
10, 12.
Yeah. 15. Maybe him and Mahomes retire together.
Yeah, in my early 50s.
So it just is, when you still have that guy, if you can reset, and this is a chance, they have a chance if they play their cards right here, they have a chance to do kind of a soft reset while still being a contending Super Bowl team. And that is unbelievably hard to do. And luck is so much a big part of it too. I have a feeling that if Tyreek Hill, and I could be wrong here, right? No one's ever going to know. The Chiefs are never going to say it all. Hill's never going to say it all. But I think the Chiefs really thought they were going to re-sign Tyreek Hill. And I think that was part of where they were going with some of the decisions they made and who to pursue and not to pursue. And had this trade gone down like during the first week of free agency, sometimes luck plays a role in these things. And that wasn't lucky. And so maybe they would have signed, one more edge rusher, right? And that's the thing. Where they're at right now is a really tenuous position, but it's not impossible to dig their way out. Like, even with the free agents available, like, if, let's say, the Chiefs announce tomorrow, like, I'm just looking at this list, and it's a bunch of guys with some question marks, but also not huge contracts. But let's say the Chiefs said, hey, we are signing Melvin Ingram and Akeem Hicks up front. I'd feel better. And let's say they did that, and they also went and they grabbed Stephon Gilmore, or they traded for Bradbury. Now I would say, okay, you know what? We're ready for the draft. We've grabbed our Band-Aids, and now let's build for the future while contending in 2022. It's just until they do that, I'm going to be really nervous.
Well, the good news is we have another month before the draft that we can be nervous during, and then we can see what happens there. I presumably we're going to have our Tuesdays back, so kicking off this almost the beginning of draft month with maybe the longest segment we've ever done in the history of this show somehow really feels right, really feels good. Seth, it's been good to have you back.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Chief of the North newsletter, mnchiefsfan.substack.com, @real mnchiefsfan on Twitter. He'll be as glad to have you as he is to have us. I'm not sure how that works, but I know there's a lot of mutual appreciation.
Take the show with you wherever you go. Listen live on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app and 810WHB.com.
This is for the men who never settle, the ones who miss the fairway all day and still pull out the big stick, the type of guys who will always prefer to be behind the grill than in front of the camera, and the men who never let their friends forget about a high school nickname. This is the Lodge mentality. This is Twin Peaks.
Nothing makes cheering on your favorite team better than wings. Pair your at-home game day with Twin Peaks Wings. Find your favorite store at twinpeaksrestaurant.com/locations.
On Thursday, the program will be broadcasting live from the Hen House off 119th and Row in Leawood. The Berry Girls will be at Hen House offering great healthy eating tips for your family. Get ready for the outdoor season by following the Berry Girls plan. There will be many great meat specials from the Butcher Block and great beer specials from Harry's Brewery. So come to Hen House at 119th and Row on Thursday with the program. Hen House, their family serving your family for 98 years. Times change, values don't. Attention investors, how would you like to collect a government-backed check with secure double-digit returns in as little as 21 days? The tax lien code is going to expose the best-kept secret in real estate investing in a free 20-minute Kickstart video. Text the word money to 26022 now and let their free video show you how to earn government-backed returns up to 25% with as little as $50, or how to invest in tax-delinquent homes that are 50% off market value. Plus, see how you can access private tax lien inventory not available to the public. So if you want to become a real estate investor that buys tax liens from the comfort of your own home, then text money to 26022 now to get your free Kickstart video. Text money to 26022 right now, and you'll get free tickets to attend a live training in the Kansas City area that will include your VIP tax lien bidder number, a power bank charger, and a tax lien investor kit free to all attendees. So text money to 26022. That's money to 26022 for your free Kickstart video now.
You may be into punk rock, soft rock, or classic rock, R&B, hip-hop, or house, country, techno, or techno-country. But no matter what kind of music you listen to, here's something else you should hear. Please consider getting vaccinated. Talk to your pharmacist today about Comirnaty, COVID-19 vaccine mRNA. This message brought to you by BioNTech and Pfizer.
Your Kansas Jayhawks march on to the Final Four.
These guys earned it, so proud of them, proud for our program.
I think it's going to be an incredible game. It's a game that we all are looking forward to playing.
I'm just proud of my team. I'm just proud of obviously Coach Self, and it's great for the program and the university. But we're not done yet, and I'm not satisfied yet with this. I know my teammates aren't either.
Your home for March Madness and the Final Four. Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Customer satisfaction. It seems like many businesses have forgot about that lately. Not A1 Mortgage. We're so confident in our team, we have a closing date guarantee. If we miss your contract closing date, you get $5,000. When you want to purchase a home, call the professionals at A1 Mortgage. Our team will get you pre-approved before you fall in love with your next home. VA, FHA, USDA, and conventional loans. We will customize the perfect loan for you start to finish. Call A1 Mortgage at 816-822-8888. That's 822-8888. We can close your loan in as little as 10 days, and our $5,000 closing date guarantee will give you peace of mind. Call A1 Mortgage 816-822-8888. That's 822-8888, or apply online at a1mortgage.com.
A1 Mortgage, making your dreams a reality is what we do.
A1 Mortgage Group, LLC, a Kansas and Missouri licensed mortgage company, NMLS 268370. Terms and conditions apply, subject to change without notice.
Kansas City's nicest upscale golf course, the Golf Club at Creekmore, is offering a preview 3-month trial membership. Come see why Golf Digest ranks it as one of the best courses you can play in the state in 2020. And Creekmore has a great new twilight rate for golf after 5 p.m. It's only $25 per person, including cart for as much golf as you can play. Host of several prestigious events annually, such as the U.S. Open Qualifier. Play more at Creekmore by calling 816-331-2621. Your only short drive of the day will be getting there.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
We've had a very woke hour here, I feel like.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Thanks again to Seth Keysor of the Chief in the North newsletter on Twitter at RealMNChiefsFan. Follow him there. Check out the newsletter. Again, Chief in the North newsletter, mnchiefsfan.substack.com. Or to get that deal I mentioned earlier last segment, $12 for a year forever. You can lock that in at bit.ly/SethReallyHatesMoney. That is actually the URL that will actually take you there. We spent a tremendous amount of time talking to Seth, so the show is over. The one thing, though, that I did want to mention, again, to plug his Ronald Jones article that went up there, the final thought there in that story from Seth, and I'm hoping we'll be able to talk to him about it next week, but we just have more time and less crazy stuff happening, but the final sort of dismount there, what that means for Jones, what that means for Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's role, and also trying to figure out what the Chiefs are doing at the running back position. Genuinely really interesting, and you know how much I love talking about running backs. That'll do it for us tonight. Back again tomorrow from 7 to 10. We'll talk to you then. Till then, bye, Mom.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Hi, this is Toby Tobin along with Jason Goodenkoff from